The Aztecs today are most remembered for their lost cities and temples and the rituals of human sacrifice that they offered to the gods. Their society was expanding and thriving when its progress was stopped by Spanish explorers such as Hernan Cortes. These conquistadors brought with them European diseases which the Aztecs had no immunity from, and they died out because of this. But the Spanish would also crush the empire with their control of the capital, Tenochtitlan. The Aztec culture came to an end, but they did have a number of brutal execution methods that they deployed inside of their lands, and people did suffer terribly because of this. Today we look at the Aztec execution methods. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. The Aztec Empire was one of the most brilliant civilizations of the pre-Columbian Americas. Their lands covered around 200,000 square kilometers, and they controlled a large amount of cities and states. They were relatively nomadic people, and because of this, it meant that setting up prison systems and sites of incarceration for criminals and rule breakers became impossible, and with this, punishments administered inside of Aztec lands became brutal and ruthless, and they established terrible execution methods to try and deter the public. Most crime was dealt with locally, and they would be tried in local courts where senior warriors decided the punishment. But if someone committed a terrible crime, they could be tried in Tenochtitlan at the Tecalco court. The emperor in some cases would even judge himself. There were many crimes that warranted the death penalty and execution in Aztec society. Murder, robbery, destruction of crops, selling stolen property, witchcraft and many other offences could result in someone being executed, and one of the most serious crimes of theft, which today is considered relatively minor, was seen as very serious. Some people were even forced to become slaves to their victims if they committed theft. It would have been common for people inside of Aztec lands to have seen executions. If someone had committed a grave crime, such as a murder, then they would be forced to answer to the gods, and the condemned would be taken to a sacred site, such as a temple, and they would then be throttled, being strangled in front of huge crowds in front of the altar. Some were even taken outside of temples, and they were stoned on the spot by a crowd. The Aztecs also dealt with their prisoners of war brutally, and they executed many, but made them human sacrifices. They were offered to the gods, and one of the most shocking forms was to cook a prisoner on a bonfire, and then the condemned would be thrown in and out of the fire until they were nearly dead, but just before death occurred, their heart would be cut out and pulled out of their chest. Also, prisoners were placed on a sacrificial stone, and a priest would then cut open their chest with an obsidian blade, and then remove their heart, offering this to the gods. Some captured warriors were given a soldier's death out of respect, but this was not a quick death. The condemned would be tied to a rock and then be given a club to defend themselves against an Aztec soldier who had a sharpened weapon such as a spear. They could also be chained by their ankles to a platform and be made to fight, but if a captive soldier defeated the Aztecs, then they would sometimes be freed. The Aztecs also used another method similar to a firing squad. They had someone chained up to 2 posts, stood in the middle of these posts, and then a white spot was placed on the victim's heart. Then teams of archers would shoot their arrows into every part of the body, before they then shot at the head and the heart. Women also were subjected to execution, but they were actually treated as goddesses before their heads were struck off their shoulders. It was a brutal set of execution methods, and something that shocked the Spanish conquistadors when they arrived. But within a few years of their arrival, the Aztec civilization would come to an end, all because of European conquest and greed. Thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.